Start with your tone.
Are you telling me you built a time machine?
There is no school.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Well, let me finish the movie.
I only have one rule. Everyone fights, no one quits.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Sci-Fi Sunday podcast. Joining me today, I'm Dave Dawson, but joining me today is my dear friend Whitney Wegman Wood.
Hi David, how are you?
I'm tired.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of traveling, so understandable.
Yeah, I was all the way up in Muskoka, Canada, just north of Toronto, as of this time yesterday. So I'm pretty beat. Yeah,
understandable. Time changes and all of that business.
Yeah, it was a 20-hour day for me yesterday between working and flying home. So
that's crazy.
Feel a bit like a zombie.
Yeah.
But, the Lord made the day in 7 days. So, what's 20 hours? Speaking of the Lord, this episode is you and me chatting about Amazon Prime series Good Omens.
Yes, it is.
You like that segue? It was a good segue.
I did. That was a good segue. Very good segue. So yeah, Good Omens, hugely anticipated release, right? Like everybody was really psyched about it. I think I texted you like I was on Instagram or something, and there was the red carpet thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, it drops this weekend. It drops tomorrow, Sunday. And then you text me back and you're like, no, it's already out. And I'm like, yeah, I guess because it's Sunday in the UK already. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. What did you think?
I loved it. I've actually watched it twice already.
Oh wow, that's great.
Which is, kind of hilarious because I'm so tired right now. I'm not sure how coherent my thoughts on the show are going to be.
That's all right. I mean, it's pretty.
But yeah, no, it's written by Neil Gaiman
and Terry Pratchett,
and
the late Terry Pratchett.
Well, they wrote the book.
Yes.
And then the series was brought to life by Neil Gaiman.
Mm-hmm.
And it is... Well, let's just give a summary for anybody who doesn't know what Good Omens is. It's a story about an angel and a demon. The demon who was, in fact, the serpent in the Garden of Eden. And their life on Earth together over the centuries as we rapidly approach the end days.
Yes.
And they don't really want the end days to happen.
Yeah, because they've been on Earth longer than any other not ethereal beings, and they actually really enjoy Earth and all of the little nuances of humanity.
I like how the demons in the show kept saying that David Tennant, who plays the demon in the story, they kept saying he's gone native. Yeah,
Crowley. Well, it's funny. David Tennant in an interview in describing the relationship between the angel and demon, he's like, yeah, they both kind of gone native. So it's so much a very English expression,
Mm-hmm. But it's absolutely wonderful. David Tennant plays Crowley, who I said is the demon, and Michael Sheen plays
Xenophil.
Yeah.
Xenophil.
And they were both there at the fall of man at the Garden of Eden. And it's just, if you're a fan of Douglas Adams, I think this show is right up your alley because the writing is so on point with Douglas Adams' style. But it's all looped around religion and the choices people make and whatnot. And it's so delightful. It's a delightfully lighthearted look at religion,
the end of the world
and the end of the world and people's viewpoints on the end of the world and whether man deserves to leave or not,
Well, Well, it totally makes sense that you got the Douglas Adams vibe off of this show, because I was telling you the other day, I listened to an interview with Neil Gaiman, and he said that he wrote this pretty immediately after working with Douglas Adams, because one of his first big gigs was as an assistant to Douglas Adams, writing the companion guide to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So he was coming right off of that and went into writing this. And he told this story about, he wrote the intro, definitely with Douglas Adams in mind, and then had Terry Pratchett read it. And Terry Pratchett's like, no, this is brilliant. Like, I think we can take this somewhere. Let's team up. Let's do something. So that was
it's delightful. The whole opening and even the way it's put together, the way it's edited, the speed at which it's delivered, it just screams classic Douglas Adams, and it's fantastic. It's like all the best of like high intellect British comedy is all there in the first like 2 minutes of this series.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything from the weird little animations, a la Monty Python's Flying Circus to even the most recent versions of Douglas Adams' own works, with Hitchhiker's Guide and whatnot. That style, that very British style, is wonderfully on point in this whole series, but especially in the opening couple of minutes.
Yeah. What I enjoyed, so last fall, whenever I was commuting back and forth to College of the Desert, I got on this kick of doing audiobooks.
And love audiobooks.
One of the things that I picked up was there was a radio play version of this book. And so listening to that versus watching the television show, like, there were a lot of similarities, and I could see how doing that was probably a great transition from like taking the book through to the film. Because, you could see the trajectory of it as a play, as a piece like that. But then, even though I had listened to that, there were still some things that were very unexpected in watching the television version. So I thought that was really neat, like seeing the evolution of the story and how it behaved in different mediums. So that was really neat.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about the series too is it's only 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fairly short.
Yeah,
so it's a great binge series. Like, you can sit down and binge it in a day, easy. And I think it plays exceptionally well in a binge format because it just rolls so fast. The whole season just rolls real quick. And every episode's jam-packed with information and humor and drama. And I'm glad I didn't have to wait in between episodes to keep going, because once I started, I couldn't stop.
Yeah, it was nice that they released it the way they did. I couldn't imagine having to wait week to week for the rest of that series.
Yeah, totally. It's and I think that's one of the fun things with the streaming services is we get this opportunity now to see long form storytelling the way it's meant to be, which is, all the episodes run back to back to back to back. And I don't know, it's really enjoyable for me. It's easier to remember the nuances of those early episodes as you get towards the end, see threads coming together.
Exactly. One thing that I thought was really fun. So John knew nothing about this show at all. Like, John, my husband. Yeah. I probably mentioned it to him a couple of times whenever I was listening to the audio series. But I was sitting down to start to watch it. I'm like, hey, do you want to watch this? Should I wait for you? And he's like, and I kind of gave him the spiel. He's like, I'm like, hold on, watch the trailer. I played the trailer and he looks at me and he goes, okay, yeah, wait for me. I'll be 10 minutes. So the way they put that together was, really enticing for people who knew nothing about the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like a huge, and this is a big thing in the book as well, but what was hugely important for me, at least for the tempo of the show, was the use of Queen music.
Right.
So well done.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
show.
And always played by Crowley, the demon.
Yes. Yes.
And kind of narrated the course of his existence.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which was fantastic. And timely because Queen's so popular right now too. Like kind of neat. Let's get into performances, because I think part of the writing on this is brilliant, and we've talked about the writing quite a bit already, but I think what really sells this in the end is the two leads, David Tennant and Michael Sheen. They are so pitch perfect in their portrayals of these two characters on this show. Like, I love watching either of them perform, but the moments that their characters come together are like magical moments in the course of the series.
Yeah, they play off each other. They play off each other so well, and it's interesting seeing Michael Sheen in this character because I've seen him in lots of other things, and he's never quite so dainty,
I mean, I've seen him play relatively dainty before, like. But never like this. Like his take on what an angel should be like is so sweet.
Yes. No, I guess I always think of him as like, in Masters of Sex or Underworld, or, things where it's like totally other side of the spectrum from this character.
Mm-hmm. Now it's interesting. I saw an interview with him, or I read an interview with him. I can't remember which it was, but he was talking about Neil Gaiman's been talking about doing this series with him for a long time. And early on, the idea was Michael Sheen would play Crowley.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when Neil Gaiman called him up and said, hey, we're going to be doing it. We're going to make the show. Are you ready? He was like, yes, of course I'm ready. He said he hung up the phone and then went into a panic for a few days because he started realizing, I don't think I can play Crowley. I don't think I can play this character. I don't know how to play this character. And he started freaking himself out about it. And he called Neil Gaiman up and said, hey, I've been thinking this through, and I don't think I'm right for Crowley in the end. I'd be better for Rizafale. And Neil Gaiman goes, oh, thank goodness. I was thinking the same. They were both scared to tell each other the same thing. It was pretty funny to listen to.
That's funny. I wonder what about him changed in the course of that time that he felt like, no, this just isn't in me anymore. Because he's played darker characters before. Not even that Crowley's that dark. He's very like tongue in cheek,
Yeah, I don't know. As we get older and we start to kind of know ourselves better, we start to kind of realize the things that are more of a stretch. And maybe he felt like those earlier characters were too much of a stretch for the person he actually is now,
Yeah.
But fascinating. And I think absolutely the right choice when you watch how he performs his angel.
Oh, definitely.
He just knew how to play that part. None of it felt forced. It all felt so natural and so instinctive, And then Tennant just ate up playing the bad guy. I mean, here's a guy who's probably mostly known around the world for playing the quintessential good guy in Doctor Who, right? And yes, he's delved into bad guys many, many times. Jessica Jones, I'm thinking of in particular. But his portrayal of Crowley is so interesting. He's like the rock star demon with a heart of gold.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I mean, I feel like that is definitely a through line of Tennant's characters. They're kind of shit disturbers, like even his Who, like, was kind of, his curiosity delved into being mischievous, So I would say
and even
that's
as
something
Doctor Who could get very angry.
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah,
had a
that's
dark
true.
side to him, you know.
That's true.
But that's one of the things that I love about Tennant as an actor is he does such a tremendous job of bringing those multiple layers to a character. Like it'd be easy to play somebody like Crowley, who's, you know, this demon, that fell from heaven with Beelzebub, and here it is. He could be completely evil, but is he? You know, like, and that's one of the delightful things I think that's played on in this whole series is the angel and the demon, who should be in completely stark contrast of each other, somehow find common ground with one another and maybe aren't as cut and dry, white and black as you would think, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so delightfully done the way they develop these two characters over these 6 episodes, especially the 3rd episode when they go through their history together.
Oh, yeah. Was that the 3rd episode? I watched them so quickly
That
together.
was the 3rd episode. I was like, oh, this is the midpoint of the series. Now we get to see their whole history. And it was everything leading up to the opening title sequence. So it was like the longest intro of the whole series too. It went like
Yes, it was.
12 minutes, 15 minutes before you get to the title cards. But watching these two play these characters in different centuries through the years was so funny and so much fun to watch as the two of them kind of developed with each other. And learn to kind of play to each other's strengths to achieve the things that they needed to achieve for their side.
Exactly. So one thing that you brought up, the fact that like Tennant, you know, throughout the thing, it's not cut and dry that he's evil. And for a lot of it, I was thinking, oh, you know, he's like evil light, you know, like he's very, again, back to mischievous. But the moment that like pulled into focus for me, it's like, no, he's still pretty evil. And this is silly, but with his houseplants, the moment with the houseplants, there's something about the way he played that where I'm like, that got dark. I know they're just plants, but damn, that got dark.
He verbally abused all his houseplants.
Yes. And then put the one in the shredder.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah.
Like, oh,
okay,
yeah. Don't
no,
forget, he's a demon. He is a demon.
He's evil.
But I think they really set the tone with the two of them in the first scene they have together. And this is spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen the series, you know, might as well come back for the last 13 minutes of this episode after you've gone to watch it. Spoilers. So in the first scene the two of them have together, on the wall of the Garden of Eden, Crowley's just given the apple to Adam and Eve. They've been kicked out. And Arizaphel's like, why'd you do that? Well, why is it bad to know what bad is? I don't see what's wrong in being able to tell the difference between, you know, good and evil. Interesting point. And then Crowley says to Arizaphel, "Where's your flaming sword?" Oh, I gave it away. You know, and he's like, "Ooh, was that a good idea? What if you did the bad thing and I did the good thing?" You know, it's like right from the start there, everything about these two characters is called into question.
Well, and they so often call into question like the concept of omnipotence, right? Like, if there is a God that knows all and knows what we're going to do before we do it, you know, is there free will? And if there is free will, then is there omnipotence? And, you know, a lot of Gaiman's books do that, like talk about are gods fallible, basically.
Well, I liked the way he also approached everything too, where everybody thought they knew what the plan is. Except for Arizaphel, who always referred to it as being ineffable.
Yes.
And in the end, it's that ineffable quality that allows them to do the things that they do, right? Like, because nobody really knows what the plan is from God. And the bit at the beginning where God's explaining what God does with the universe is like playing poker where the dealer's constantly smiling at you.
Yeah.
Just cracked me up every time I watched it.
I also like that the voice of God was
Frances McDormand.
Gosh, I can't. Frances McDormand, yeah, from Three Billboards. Yeah, I very much enjoyed her tone for God.
Yeah.
I so enjoyed so many of their casting choices too. Like you referenced the first scene with Adam and Eve. They went with a black Adam and Eve, which is
brilliant,
historically more accurate.
Yeah, and raised a bunch of people's ire on Twitter, which is not a bad thing either.
Oh, really? I didn't even catch that part. I think that was great. It's like, yeah, let's be for reals about this. I mean, if there was an Adam and Eve, this is Middle East, they are probably very darkly complected.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, they picked two beautiful performers for Adam and Eve. It's like spot on. And then just like all of the casting in general, like you said, like Tennant to play Crowley.
Well, John Hamm as Archangel Gabriel.
Oh Lord, yes,
So
John Hamm is
smug
great. He plays those characters so well. There was one person that I commented to John. I'm like, I'm so surprised that they cast an American actor in that role. Which was the Witchfinder General, Michael McKean.
Oh yeah,
Shadwell. He did a great job. I was just really surprised. I'm like, okay, all right, wow. I thought his Scottish accent was wonderful, and he was a hysterical character.
Oh, the whole Witchfinder General storyline in this was amazing.
But I guess if we're being honest, like he's done a fair amount of British television. I think he was in a couple Doctor Who episodes, and then he did This Is Spinal Tap and all that.
Yeah, well, he's a whole part of that Christopher Guest troupe.
Yeah.
So this kind of performance is right up his alley. But
yeah, I thought that was...
No, yeah, the casting across the board, there wasn't a single person who I was like, really? That person? I really enjoyed the scenes, the way they portrayed heaven and hell. Heaven's like an empty office building, all white and windows, and hell was like... Hell reminded me of like Pink Floyd's The Wall, where the kids are marching to the meat grinder.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
just that kind of like flair. Working with no purpose kind of setup. So in the one, it's like the pristine office building, but it doesn't look like anybody's actually doing anything in it. And the other one is like the worst working conditions in the world, and everybody's working, but it doesn't look like anybody knows why they're working.
Yeah.
And the toads and stuff on the demon heads and whatnot, I found hysterical.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
The way their little hands would move across their foreheads and stuff. Was that CGI or was that a practical?
I
think those were practical.
Those are great. Yeah.
So, and Beelzebub is always followed around by a cloud of flies.
Yes, which is perfect.
And Beelzebub was a female too.
Well, and a lot of the riders, the horsemen, were women as well. But I love the fact that they never referenced them as women. They always continued with the vein in the book where they called them, male or he,
Yeah.
He, because war was a woman, and it's pestilence, but it was replaced by pollution.
Yeah. No, it's such a fun show, just across the board. I've never read the book, and I hadn't heard the radio drama. So for me, I went into this completely fresh, just knowing the two leads, basically, and knowing that I've appreciated Neil Gaiman's projects in the past. But boy, was I just floored watching this. Like I said, I started watching it on a Thursday night. I started at 6 p.m. and I didn't stop till I was done. And I was laughing the entire time. It
was great. And I'm sure that you can appreciate, because you are a Doctor Who fan, there were a lot of Doctor Who references and Easter eggs
loads of
in
them.
Good Omens.
Loads of them.
To start with, I love that David Tennant finally got to be a redhead.
My ginger.
Yes.
It's also interesting, too, because Neil Gaiman, I believe, has written for Doctor Who, and so did Douglas Adams. So.
Oh, yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah, I think both of them have. So, right up their alley.
Yeah.
So I have to say, because you liked this so much, another show that you might want to check out that's also Neil Gaiman is American Gods, because it's a similar vein of storytelling and, you know, the British humor.
I've heard from a number of people that I need to check out American Gods. So after watching this, I'm definitely more intrigued to do so. So
yeah. I've not yet watched the television series, but I've read the books and really enjoyed them. So if their way of communicating it through a film medium is the same as what they did with Good Omens, I would imagine it's a really excellent show. Plus, star-studded. Like, every time I turn it on, they're like, and this person is, you know, like a bazillion actors. It's like, oh yeah, know that person. They're great. This would be wonderful.
So, well, Whitney, thanks for sitting and chatting with me about Good Omens.
Oh, you're welcome. Before we go, can I just, I was looking at Neil Gaiman's Twitter, and I feel like we should put this out there because he's such a gracious writer and creator. He said, and this was 22 hours ago, a big thank you to all of you who have discovered Good Omens and are spreading the good word. It means a lot to the people who made it. So, all right, we're spreading the word, Neil.
Cool. Yeah, so this has been our Good Omens episode of Sci-Fi Sunday. If you haven't checked out the rest of our episodes, be sure to check them out on iTunes or Google Play Music, or I think we're not on iHeartRadio yet, but we're working on it. And you can always go to the Intellectual website at theintellectual.com to check out all the episodes of Sci-Fi Sunday, but you can also check out our parent podcast, the Intellectual Podcast, of which Whitney and I are co-hosts, where we talk about film and regularly interview other creative individuals in the industry. It's a great show, and we've got 250 something episodes available to listen to out there. So make sure you check that out. And, you know, Whitney, again, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about Good Omens. And,
yeah, no problem.
You know, I hope, and I don't know if it's possible, I hope that we see more like this. Maybe, I don't know if there's a possibility for a season 2 on this, but I'd be down for it. These characters are great.
You know, even if there's, I mean, I feel like they left the door open that there could be, but even if there's not, there's so many other great books by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett that could easily become cinematic stories. You know?
I hope it happens. I'm sure it will.
Too. Yeah.
So cool. Well, until next time, everybody, thank you for joining us on Sci-Fi Sunday.
Thank you so much, guys.